This week, my friends, I'm making a conscious effort not to go to the grocery store. We're just gonna eat what we have here in my house, in my fridge, in my freezer, in my pantry, because we don't need to go to the grocery store. We have food here. We might have to get a little bit creative, we'll see, but I'm ready to show you what I'm eating for the next 5 days without going to the store. Let's go. Okay, so we're gonna make biscuits and gravy for breakfast because I have some frozen biscuits that I got last weekend. And then I have this sausage. This is the pre-cooked, I believe, Jimmy Dean sausage. I actually bought this a couple weeks ago because we were making homemade pizza, but I'm gonna use it in the gravy. This sausage is already pre-cooked, obviously, but I'm just gonna render some of the fat out of it in this skillet. I like to sometimes cook the sausage separately from the gravy because sometimes if you brown the sausage and then cook the gravy in the same pan, it makes the gravy discolored. It really doesn't affect the taste, but so I've got a 1/4 of a cup of flour, a 1/4 of a cup of butter. I'm gonna add salt and pepper to this and some milk. I did drain the sausage on a little bit of paper towel before I put it in there just to take some of the grease out. Just gonna stir this in. You definitely wanna taste it, add salt, pepper. You can add a little tiny bit of cayenne if you want for a tiny bit of spice, that's good. All right, so we're just gonna split our biscuits and go ahead and add our eggs to the plate and put some gravy on top of that. If y'all have not tried these frozen biscuits, they are so good. They are actually way better than the canned kind. I highly encourage you to try them and keep them in your freezer. So Sunday for lunch, I decided to kind of make an Asian inspired meal. Kira had a friend spend the night before and I was like, listen, we're having pantry food this week, so would you like some rice and dumplings? And I'll just make you something like that. And they're like, yeah, that would be awesome. So I always keep these dumplings from Mila in my freezer. They're great for either sides or actually meals because they're high in protein. So I'll link them down below. They are a bit pricier than the grocery store dumplings, but I think they are so much better quality. I also had some leftover rice in the fridge, so I'm gonna go ahead and heat that up in the microwave. And then I also cut up some fruit for them. So just some oranges and apples. And then I went ahead and added some umami broth to these eggs. I'm gonna go ahead and whisk them up with some chopsticks. And what I'm planning to do is make like a rolled omelet. I actually got a Asian omelet pan a while ago and I haven't used it yet. For the rice, I'm going to throw that in a bowl, put an ice cube on top of it and microwave it. That just helps keep the rice moist. And then I'm pouring those scrambled eggs into my omelet pan. I'm just going to cook those really slow over like medium low heat until they set on the bottom. And then basically you just want to kind of roll the omelet up as you add more eggs to the pan. And then once everything is rolled up, you can transfer it to a plate. I'm going to go ahead and slice this up into strips and then serve it with the rice. So I added the cooked rice to the bottom of these dumpling plates, some dumplings on top, some green onions, soy sauce on the side, and the eggs. They loved this lunch. It was so good. I had some cucumbers on the side. And then for myself, I am using or trying these Better Goods cheese enchiladas. These come in the frozen section at Walmart. I would say these aren't quite as good as the Amy's brand, but they're still worth trying. I had them with some pico and lettuce and sour cream on top, and that was a good lunch for me. Okay, so I decided tonight for dinner, we are gonna have lasagna because I have everything that we need. So I have ricotta, cottage cheese. I need to sort through this cheese drawer. I don't know if I have exactly enough mozzarella, but I do have some other cheeses in here that I can use along with it. Like I have some Parm, I could maybe even throw a little white cheddar in there. It's probably not gonna make much of a difference. I also made tacos last night for dinner. So I browned extra ground beef and I just set aside some of it so I could use it for the sauce in the lasagna. Since my beef is already cooked, I'm just gonna go ahead and mix the sauce up in a bowl. I am putting the beef in the microwave for a little bit just to kind of loosen it up a little bit so I can stir it into the marinara. 2 jars of this Great Value marinara sauce. If you haven't tried this, it's actually really good. It is the cheapest marinara sauce that Walmart sells, and I actually really like the taste of it. I also just put a little bit of water in the bottom of the marinara jar and shake it up just to loosen the sauce up a little bit and get out any extra sauce. I added my beef, so I'm just gonna go ahead and give this a stir. I'll probably add some salt, pepper, maybe like a teaspoon of sugar. I usually add to tomato sauce just to kind of cut the acidity a little bit. And then maybe like a spoonful of Italian herbs just to kind of zhuzh up the flavor. For the ricotta mixture, I like to use a combination of cottage cheese and ricotta. This cottage cheese is actually used by today, so that's perfect. We'll use the rest of that. To this, I added my ricotta, a good bit of grated Parmesan cheese, dried basil. I don't add any salt because the cottage cheese and the Parmesan that I added are already salty. 1 egg, some pepper. Did I say garlic powder? I can't remember. Stir this up. So for the noodles, what I do is I just soak them for like 10-15 minutes in really hot water. It doesn't cook them the whole way, obviously, and a lot of recipes say that you don't even have to cook the noodles at all. However, I like to hydrate them just a little bit before I put them in with the lasagna, because otherwise they tend to soak up quite a bit of the sauce as they cook, and I don't want my lasagna to be dry. So I'm just gonna make a 9x9 pan, and then I'm gonna make a smaller, whatever this size pan is, just for my daughter Kira, because she doesn't like the cheese filling. So in the bottom, I put a couple spoonfuls of the marinara. I broke the lasagna noodles off so that they would fit in the pan. The ricotta mixture, I'll put another spoonful of sauce on top of here and some shredded mozzarella cheese, and then repeat the layers, 3 layers of noodles total, or it will go over, it will overfill the dish, and then I'll just layer this with the sauce and the noodles. All right, so these are assembled. I'm gonna go ahead and pop some foil on these, put them in the oven for around, this one will probably take 45 to 60 minutes depending, but I'll take the foil off it at some point and put some more mozzarella cheese over the top to melt. Okay, so I had some ciabatta rolls in the fridge, and I wanted to kind of make some makeshift garlic bread with those. So I just cut them in half. I spread some softened butter on them, sprinkled them with a little bit of salt and garlic powder, added some shredded cheese to the top. I'm gonna put this in the oven while the lasagna finishes. Basically, I pulled it out, took the foil off, put some cheese on top, and I'm just letting it brown on the top. Okay, so lasagna is done. I'm just letting it rest for about 10-15 minutes before I take it out of the pan. And I also finished my bread and cut it in half. All right, here's our lasagna. I haven't had lasagna in a while, so looking forward to this. You do not get any. Lasagna is people food. Hey guys, I wanted to pop in here real quick and let you know that today's video is sponsored by Helix. I've been working with Helix for a long time here on my channel. So if you're not familiar with Helix, they offer premium mattresses that are customized to fit your needs. And the best part is that they are shipped right to your door. They come rolled up in a box, which is super convenient. I love living in a day and age when we don't have to go shopping at the furniture store. It's just so much better. Helix's sleep quiz also will match you. So you just go to their website and take the sleep quiz, and they will match you to your perfect mattress for your body size and preferences. Adam and I have had our Helix mattress for, I don't even know, it's been well over a year now, probably 2 years. And we have the Helix Plus, and it's perfect. It's like cushy, but still firm, and I really miss sleeping on it when I go out of town for work. Helix will deliver your mattress right to your door, like I said, rolled up in a box, and there's free shipping in the US, and it is super easy to set up as well. You also don't have to be worried about ordering a mattress online because they have a 100-night sleep trial, so you can test the mattress out and make sure that you love it. Helix mattresses also offer a 10-year warranty, which I think is awesome. Like, what has a 10-year warranty nowadays? Not even my refrigerator has a 10-year warranty. And they also offer flexible payment options and payment plans and financing if you need that as well. If you're a hot sleeper, they also have an option for the Glaciotex cooling cover, which helps keep you cool if you are a hot sleeper. We're actually probably going to be getting a new mattress for Kira soon, and so I am definitely going to be getting a Helix mattress for her. I'll probably use my own coupon code, which I'll have a link in the description box below. Helix is having their New Year's sale, and the final hours are live now and ending soon. So go to helixsleep.com/Jen Chapin. You're going to get 20% off your mattress plus 2 free pillows. Seriously, treat yourself to a good night's sleep. I highly recommend this mattress, even to people in like my regular life. Like sometimes you have random conversations at work, you know, and you're like, oh, does anyone have a recommendation for a good mattress? I'm like, me, yes, get a Helix mattress. All right, so happy Tuesday evening. I had a couple of ideas for dinner tonight, and this is what I decided.
Did you just say ideas?
Ideas.
I think you said ideas.
No, I don't say idea.
Even Milo.
So I've got a 2-pound package of hamburger in the microwave. So a lot of people say like, oh, what do you do if you don't have meat thawed out? Well, you don't have to have it thawed out because your microwave has a defrost function. So I will do this with ground beef or chicken or pork or whatever, especially like ground beef. If you're gonna cook it anyway, and it's still like, I can feel this is still like a tiny bit frozen in the middle, it's totally fine. We're gonna put it in a skillet and saute it. The key, I think, is just to keep flipping it as you defrost it so that you can get as even of a defrost as possible. And I'm not sure why our microwave does this, but when I use the defrost function on it, it actually trips the breaker. So what I do is I just throw it in there at 50% power. I start with like 5 minutes and then go from there. All right, so I've just got a big skillet here. You can see here that actually most of this meat is thawed. There's just like a few icy chunks in there, which will obviously cook up as we saute this. So we've got 2 pounds of ground beef. What I'm going to do with this is I'm going to use 1 pound and make a tater tot casserole for Adam and I, which we'll have plenty of leftovers. The kids don't really care for tater tot casserole, so for them I'm going to go ahead and make this box of cheeseburger macaroni, which is basically like the Great Value hamburger helper. So I'll make that for them, and then I also need some cream of chicken soup for the tater tot casserole. And then while this is sauteing, I'm gonna season it with some salt. And then we don't really like big chunks of onion in there, so I just like to use this dried minced onion because you get that onion flavor, but you don't get the big chunks. I usually get it in a big container at Costco. I'm gonna add some garlic powder and some black pepper. So after the hamburger was done, I took out half of it and put it in this bowl for the tater tot casserole. I'm gonna add the cheese packet, 1 cup of hot water. Turn the heat back on. Okay, pour in the milk. No, pour in the milk.
This?
Yep.
All of it?
Yep.
What kind of got on here? It looks like buffalo sauce.
It's cheese. Yep, pour in the macaroni. Okay, and then use that spoon to stir it around. Okay, so I added my cream of chicken soup. I'm gonna add about half a can of milk. I like to add some Worcestershire sauce just for a little bit of flavor. I'll probably add a little bit of salt, not too much, and some pepper, and I've got the vegetables cooking in the microwave. I like to kind of par cook the mixed veggies a little bit in the microwave before I add it to the beef mixture. You don't necessarily have to do that. I just want to make sure I don't have like, you know, frozen veggies when my casserole comes out of the oven. Okay, one thing about me is that I'm always gonna line up my tots because I feel like if you don't line up the tots, you don't get even tot coverage. Okay, I'm gonna put this in a 400-degree oven. It'll probably take about, I don't know, 25, 30 minutes. Yeah, Connor wants to show you his shoes. What are they?
Jordans.
Jordans?
Mom bought them for me.
Where are you going?
Basketball practice.
Basketball practice?
Mm-hmm.
Have fun. Okay, so hamburger helper's done. Kira's gonna go ahead and eat. I got her some hamburger helper, mixed veggies that I didn't use in the tater tot casserole. And then I just peeled up some clementines and put them with the rest of the blueberries. All right, I'm gonna make some Rice Krispie treats because I got the ingredients for it a while back and I never made them. So I've got some butter melting in the bottom of this pot. I'm gonna add 6 cups of marshmallows and just melt those down slowly until everything is combined together. All right, I added a tiny little bit of vanilla extract to here, and I'm gonna go ahead and add my 6 cups of Rice Krispies. I'm just gonna stir that together, and then I have this greased 9x13 dish here. All right, so I ended up cooking the tater tot casserole for, it was actually like 35 minutes, I think, and I turned the temperature up to 425 so the top would brown. And I always let it sit in the pan for like 10 minutes before I dish it out, just so it's not so super hot, but this is what I'm gonna have for dinner. Okay, so it is Tuesday, and it has been a long week so far. Yes, it's only Tuesday. So I have this buttermilk that's about to go out of date, and so I want to make sure I use up the most that I can. So I'm gonna make pancakes for dinner. I'll show you the recipe I'm using in a bit, but I did get some bacon out of the freezer. We had 2 packs. I'm gonna go ahead and cook them both up. I don't think we'll eat them all, but obviously leftover bacon, throw it in the fridge, use it on sandwiches or salads or whatever. So I've just got this in the oven at 400 degrees. I'm just going to cook it on some wire racks until it is crispy. This is an old Food Network recipe that I use when I make homemade pancakes when I'm not using just the mix that I normally keep in the pantry. So in here I've got a 1/4 cup of melted butter. I'm gonna go ahead and measure out 2 cups of buttermilk. I'm gonna crack 2 eggs into my measuring cup and then whisk them up and add those to the wet ingredients. I like adding or mixing up the wet ingredients separate before I add the dry. The recipe doesn't call for it, but I like to add about a teaspoon of vanilla extract. I put 2 cups of flour in here. I'm gonna add 3 tablespoons of sugar, and then we need 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Half a teaspoon of baking soda, and then it calls for half a teaspoon of salt, but I'm gonna go ahead and leave that out since I used salted butter because I don't want it to be too salty. So we've got flour, sugar, salt, baking powder, baking soda, buttermilk, eggs, melted butter. I'm gonna go ahead and mix this up. So I'm just cooking my pancakes in a skillet, and then I added my scrambled eggs to a nonstick pan with some butter. I always just like to cook my pancakes in a skillet with a little bit of nonstick spray. Just let them get brown on the bottom, flip them over. If you haven't made pancakes routinely before, it does take a little bit of practicing to get that part down, so don't be discouraged. I went ahead and scrambled the eggs until they were done, and then that is what we had for dinner on this evening, or that's what my kids and my husband had. I had something different because I don't really prefer breakfast for dinner, but I always keep syrup in the pantry for pancakes. The bacon, I told you guys, I pulled out of the freezer. That turned out great. If you've never cooked bacon in the oven on a cooling rack, I highly recommend it. I also had washed up some grapes that I had in the freezer, and this is always a meal that no one complains about. my kids and Adam both, they all love breakfast for dinner. So love that on nights when I'm not sure what to make. So on this night, I sent a text to my family. I said, what do you want? Here are the choices. Connor said he wanted buffalo nuggets. Kira said she wanted ramen and dumplings. And then Adam said he wanted a sandwich and soup. And since these were all items that I could like throw together super quickly, I don't mind like putting all of these things together, even though I'm making different things. They're all super easy. I was basically just trying to use up things that I had left over in the fridge and then things I had in my pantry and freezer. So I put the chicken noodle soup on to cook, and then I'm adding some of those Mila dumplings to my always pan. I do not recommend this pan. Okay. You guys don't buy this pan if you want a nonstick pan. It is terrible for that. I only use it for steaming veggies and dumplings. It's great for that. And then these are some hot and spicy buffalo chicken bites that we picked up at Hy-Vee. I had some tater tots in the freezer, so I went ahead and threw those in the air fryer for Connor's dinner. And then for Adam, I wanted to make a sandwich. Obviously, that's what he wanted. So I just had some white bread, put mayo on both sides of the bread, and then I had some ham in the refrigerator as well. Some cheese, just a very simple ham and cheese sandwich. And then he had that with the chicken noodle soup and some crackers on the side. Very simple. This night was my favorite because I didn't have to cook a lot of things. Well, it seems like I cooked a lot of things, but all these things were super easy. I made Kira this Nissin Tonkatsu ramen. If you guys haven't tried this brand of ramen before, it is my absolute favorite brand of ramen. It comes with the seasoning oil and the seasoning packet. And then basically you just boil the noodles. And then while that was cooking, I got some veggies together for Connor to have with his buffalo nuggets and ranch. So I just cut up some celery, some carrots, and some tomatoes. And then once the noodles are done cooking for the ramen, you just add those to the bowl along with that flavor oil and flavor packet, and just make sure you whisk it together. This ramen is so good. It has such a better flavor than just the regular cheap ramen. I highly recommend it. This is Connor's. He had the buffalo nuggets, tots, and then he had the tomatoes, celery, carrots, and I put some ranch on the side. Everybody was happy. I'm going to show you guys what I put together for my dinner here in a bit. But here was Kira's. She had some dumplings with soy sauce and ramen on the side. I always give her one of the ramen spoons so that she can eat the broth with that. And then I give her a fork to eat the noodles. We also had some grapes left over, so put those out. And then I had some leftover taco meat and rice, and I just put that in a bowl with some cheese and some pico and some sour cream. And I went ahead and cooked up a tortilla, and that is what I had for dinner. It was delicious. Okay, so it's Thursday. I'm gonna make chili for dinner tonight and probably some cornbread. So I only have 1 can of crushed tomatoes in the pantry, but I do have some homemade marinara, which is pretty mild. I didn't put like too much basil or anything in here, so I feel like it's gonna be fine as long as I put some chili powder in there. So we've got tomatoes, a can of chili beans, and a can of dark red kidney beans. I'm gonna make the chili in the Instant Pot just because I can cook it under pressure and it will get the beef will get a little bit more tender that way. So I've got 2 pounds of ground beef in here that I pulled out of the freezer and defrosted in the microwave. I'm just going to cook this up. I'll add some salt, pepper, some minced onion, probably some garlic powder. All right, so my beef is done. I'm just gonna turn off the saute function. I've got my can of kidney beans. I did drain these, but I did not rinse them. We'll add those, and then a can of chili beans. I might have to add more beans. We'll just kind of see what kind of ratios we have here. Okay, so I'm gonna add quite a bit of chili powder. I don't measure, but I would say like start with 3 tablespoons and then go from there. Add some cumin. When you're making like soup or stew in the Instant Pot, you just want to pay attention to the side of it. You probably can't see it obviously because the camera's out, but there is a max fill line for the pressure cooker function. So just make sure that your chili doesn't go beyond that line. I like to add a bit of water just to kind of thin it out a little bit, but not too much. Okay, I'm gonna add a pinch of cayenne. I actually need to find more chili powder because it definitely needs more. I'm gonna add a bit of smoked paprika as well. I'm gonna add just like a teaspoon of sugar just to cut the acidity of those tomatoes a little bit. A little bit more chili powder. Basically, I don't follow a recipe. I just continue adding and tasting until it's to my liking. Okay, that's pretty good to me. I might have to add some more things, adjust it, you know, when it's done cooking. So I'm just gonna lock the lid on this. Okay, and then I'm gonna see, wait, okay, I think I'm gonna do soup. My other Instant Pot has a chili button, but I think we'll just use the soup button because I think that's pretty similar. 30 minutes on high pressure. All right, I've got these very ripe bananas, so I thought we'd make some banana bars. I'm gonna use the recipe on the Betty Crocker website. I have a Paula Deen recipe printed out somewhere, but that I've used for years, obviously, but I can't find it, so I'm just gonna go ahead and use this one. It has good ratings. If you're gonna use a mixer, you don't even need to mash your bananas. You can just put them into the mixer bowl first and beat them up and they'll mash like that. 1 cup of sugar. 1/3 of a cup of vegetable oil. 2 eggs. All right, we're gonna add 1 cup of flour. 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. I also added a teaspoon of baking powder, and I'm gonna add 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, and then 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Okay, so I just greased an 9x13 pan with this Baker's Joy spray. It's got flour in it, so it's really good for baked goods. And I'm gonna pour my batter in there. Okay, then this is gonna go in a 350-degree oven for 25 minutes. Okay, so I'm also gonna make some cornbread. I had this in my pantry. I actually got it, I think around Thanksgiving, and I never made it. It's the Famous Dave's cornbread. I don't think I've ever purchased this brand before, so we're gonna see how it is. I've got my egg, milk, and water in my bowl right here, so we're just gonna whisk this up. Add our mix. All right, I'm gonna pop this in the oven at 400 for 20 minutes. All right, so cornbread is done. I'm just gonna let that cool for a bit. My chili is also done. I tasted it and it's perfect, but at this point you can adjust the seasonings if you want to. One thing I was gonna say is, like, through the first cycle of this cooking, I got a burn notice, which means that basically it's sensing that the stuff is burning on the bottom. Which means that basically it's sensing that it's burning on the bottom of the pot. Sometimes it does that when you cook tomato products in here. It wasn't burning on the bottom. So all I did was I took the lid off, I stirred it up, and then I just put it back on high pressure for 15 minutes and it cooked just fine. I was like, well, if this doesn't work, I'm gonna dump it into a pot and cook it on the stove, but it worked just fine, so that's good. Got my chili, shredded cheese. We had some cheese in the fridge, so I just shredded that up. My little oyster crackers. Sometimes I put Fritos on my chili, like plain Fritos. I like that too, but this is feeling like a good option today with the oyster crackers. Okay, so I'm gonna make the frosting for the banana bars. So I went ahead and creamed together some softened cream cheese and some butter, added some vanilla, and I'm just gonna go ahead and mix in some powdered sugar. Okay, so there is cream cheese frosting. Beautiful, fluffy. All right, this banana bar recipe, it turned out so good. Highly recommend you try it. If you've got some brown bananas sitting around, I will link this recipe that I used down below. If y'all want to see how I canned that marinara sauce that I used in the chili recipe last summer, I'll link that video right here, so click on that.